leaderboard, and you'll see Serengeti Empress there with 60 points, earning enough by far to get in the Oaks based on her victory in the Rachel Alexandra. Bellafina is the divisional leader right now, at least on paper, as we see the rest of the prospective Oaks horses on your screen right now. Let's send it out to James Scully for more information about Serengeti Empress.
Yes, I'm pleased to be joined by New Orleans native, Louisville resident, multiple-time leading Churchill Downs trainer, and the winner of more than 3,600 horse races, Tom Amoss. Tom, Serengeti Empress had a brilliant work yesterday, super impressive, went out there in 58-1, easily the fastest of 30 at the distance, and really finished fast through the stretch. I was wondering, what were you looking for going into that work, and what were your impressions upon her work yesterday?
Well, going into the work, James, we were looking to challenge her pretty well. So she had company for the work, and we wanted not only the company, but we wanted to simulate something as close to a race as we could at that distance, which was 5/8 of a mile. The idea there was we had treated her in the fashion that we're going to treat her for her race, Kentucky Oaks Day, if we were successful in keeping her from bleeding. And, so the work was challenging, and we demanded a lot of her. She responded well to it. But just as importantly, afterwards, when we scoped her, when we dropped a camera down her trachea and looked at her throat, she didn't bleed at all. So those things all needed to happen for us to move forward. We're really pleased with the result of that. We're very pleased with the work. It'd be hard to punch holes in that work. It was really good.
Yeah, and it looked like she had a target out there when she started on the far turn. That was part of the design, of course. And, were you looking for her to just, roll by her like she did in the stretch?
We were hopeful for that. We were hopeful for a strong finish. And we were hopeful for the kind of finish where, visually you can see her quicken. And so when you look at her work, you see that. But just as importantly, I think it's in the rider's hands, which really didn't move throughout the work. That was very willing work on Serengeti Empress's part. She galloped out strong, gave a lot of indication that she's on her game. And that's what we needed to see after what happened in New Orleans in the Fairgrounds Oaks. So those things all are again, positives. And some of the things that weren't mentioned that really are more about today than yesterday is how does she look this morning? She looks great. She ate up last night, so the work didn't really knock her down. Those things are all important. That's going to be her last work. She's ready to go. We're going to be galloping into the Oaks. We're going to practice a little bit in the starting gate, practice a little bit in the paddock. But we feel very, very comfortable with where we are.
You referenced her bleeding in that Fairgrounds Oaks. She was based here last year in the summer and the fall. You can look at her workout line. She showed a lot of fast works and obviously showed an affinity for the track, winning the Pocahontas Stakes here at Churchill Downs by 19 lengths. Have you noticed a change since she's gotten back here in her demeanor or how she's trained returning to her home here at Churchill Downs?
Well, I'm going to try to cover a lot with an answer here. First of all, she's a bigger, stronger version of herself from last year. So physically, she's a stronger horse. But I think the underlying question is, hey, have you ever noticed anything like, has she bled in the past? And we've never seen anything like that from her. So it was a real surprise what happened at the Fairgrounds Oaks. We haven't seen it since, and as I said, we hadn't saw it before. We're hoping that maybe, we might have missed something. Maybe she wasn't feeling all that great that day, and she just, persevered through something like that, and that's what caused her to bleed. I really don't have a good answer for that, except to say that I do not think she is, quote unquote, a bad bleeder, and we feel really strongly that we've corrected that.
Tyler Gaffalione was up on the work yesterday. Have you decided on a jockey for Serengeti Empress in the Oaks?
No decision's been made on a jockey. Certainly Tyler is one of the top riders in the country and probably one of the up-and-coming stars in the country for riders, and we'd be pleased to have him, but no decision's been made.
And before I let you go, Tom, I wanted to ask you about run style. Serengeti Empress has recorded 3 big wins in wire-to-wire fashion. The Pocahontas, like I mentioned, Ellis Park debutante, and then the Rachel Alexandra this year. Do you anticipate her being the speed in the Kentucky Oaks, or where do you expect her to be in the early stages?
I think some people will read into the work yesterday that we laid off a horse and maybe we're thinking of rating her off some pace. That's not going to happen. We're going to go to the front. There may be others that want to go to the front. I can assure you they won't be in front of us. They may be alongside of us, but our game plan is to go.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom. I know you got to get back to work. We really appreciate you taking the time with us, and best of luck in the Kentucky Oaks with Serengeti Empress.
Thanks, James. I appreciate it.
Tom Amos has been on this side of the desk covering other people's morning works, and obviously he's very well versed and knows how to describe what he's trying to say about his horse, his plans, what he was looking for, what he got. Very interesting commentary there. Motion Emotion is a very fast horse. She's been on the lead in almost all of her starts in her career. Serengeti Empress, same style. I think we're looking at a fast pace in the Oaks.
Definitely, Joe. It's time to maybe start looking for a horse to come from off the pace. But no, Serengeti Empress was very impressive in that work. Everything I thought, Tom backed it up and more. It was interesting, though, to hear that he said how aggressively they are going to be sending.
Yeah, I mean, when you see her, she just skips over this track. I mean, she won a couple stake races last year at Ellis and Churchill by, more than 30 lengths combined, so she appears to be back on top of her game. Social media questions all over the country, all over the world. We appreciate you viewing. We hope you're enjoying the show. We hope you're enjoying the horses out on the racetrack. 7:30 is when the Derby and Oaks horses restricted training will be, and we've got some questions we're going to get to before we go to a break here. And let's start with Mercedes from Facebook. She wants to know if there are any geldings or mares running in the race this year. So Funny Side, the most famous gelding to win the Kentucky Derby. We haven't had fillies in the race in quite some time. Can you explain why, Scott?
Well, geldings, there are no geldings in the race this year.
Right.
And in terms of mares, well, fillies are 3 years old, so we're not going to have any
right.
mares, right?
Yep.
But the last filly was the Foxhill Farm 8 Bells. That was a number of years ago. We have not. Have we seen one since? I can't recall. Yeah, not going to see one this year, Joe.
Yeah, the point system has changed things. I mean, you have to earn points. So in order for a filly to run against the boys in the Kentucky Derby, they would have to run against the boys before the Kentucky Derby.
Right.
And as far as geldings go, there are the vast majority of racehorses that are male that are now geldings. It's a longevity thing as far as their career goes. But these horses have so much value, Scott, potentially at stud when they retire, that you're going to see very, very few geldings ever in the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And good call. The point system has changed.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we return, Sophie Doyle, looking to become the second female jockey to ever win the Kentucky Oaks. She joins James Scully right after this.
With TwinSpires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby, place legal wagers, and watch live horse racing on any device. New players download now to start your $100 sign-up bonus. Sign up, play, and win today. With TwinSpires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby, place legal wagers, and watch live horse racing on any device. New players download now to start your $100 sign-up bonus. Sign up, play, and win today.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby morning workout show presented by TwinSpires.com. Main track is fast, temperature in the mid-50s, perfect conditions. The horses absolutely love it. And coming up at 7:30 in the morning Eastern time, we're going to have the beginning of the exclusive training period for the Derby and Oaks horses. One of those Oaks horses is Street Band, and James Scully standing by with her rider. James?
Yes, I'm pleased to be joined by Sophie Doyle, rider of Street Band. Sophie, Street Band punched her Kentucky Oaks ticket, winning the Fairgrounds Oaks last month. But in her first stakes race in February in the Rachel Alexandra, she weakened a little bit in the stretch, finished fourth. That last race was such an improvement by her. I was wondering if you could tell us about her progression and how she's coming into the Kentucky Oaks.
Street Band's been progressing nicely ever since we won the allowance race with her. She's come along really nicely and she's starting to grow up and mature. In the Rachel Alexander, she was just a little bit keen through the first quarter of the mile and kind of didn't really get to relax till we had about 3 furlongs to run. And then, of course, the race is starting to take shape and come for a big finish. we got a nice gap as we were turning for home. I managed to get a little slip and try and go with Serengeti Express. And I felt like just in the last 16th, she just kind of tired under me a little bit, you know, stretching out. And also she kind of took it out of herself a little bit in the first quarter. So I think if she'd have settled for the first quarter, I think without doubt she would have ran second to Serengeti Express. But since then, we've been working well with her in the morning and teaching her to relax and getting to know each other pretty well. And it paid off when it came to the Fairground Oaks.
Yeah, you talked about that in the fairgrounds. So she talked about how she's a little eager sometimes, perhaps headstrong. What as a jockey, what do you do to like try to get a horse like that to relax that just wants to go right from the start?
I think it's just letting the horse break very naturally on their own and staying out of their way, so you're not trying to hustle them from the gate. And then letting them take their own natural stride into the race and just keeping your hands pretty quiet. And I like to give the horse a bit more of their head. I don't like to get up in their mouth and tighten them in the bit too much. So we've been teaching her in the morning and just getting to know each other, and she's trusting me now to give her a head a little bit more. She drops her head nicely into the bit, and she's been traveling really well, and we did that in the Fairground Oaks. You'll see that she just naturally settled well, and it paid off.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the Fairgrounds Oaks here with Street Band, who winds up winning, going away by about a 4-length margin. What were you thinking turning for home in that race? And was it a different feeling that you'd experienced aboard Street Band in previous starts?
Yes, absolutely. She, once I got her to relax, it was just basically I just sat there and enjoyed the ride. She just gave me that feeling that I knew 3 furlongs out from home. I said, I'm going to win this. We are going to win this race. And she just gave me such a great feeling that when we turned for home, I almost got like that same kind of run where I got a nice little slip through. And when we turned for home, she just really exploded under me. And she gave me everything that she had. And just the fact that she was galloping away from everybody is what impressed me so much. And her gallop out was pretty nice too. So I'm really looking forward to the extra distance. And I think she'll have no problem in achieving it.
I wanted to, you mentioned, you have experience aboard a Street Band. You picked up the mount in November, have been up for the last 5 starts on Street Band. And she's trained by Larry Jones. I think if they had a Mount Rushmore of Kentucky Oaks trainers, Larry Jones would be on it. He's a 3-time winner. Just tell me about what's it like riding horses for Larry Jones, and why do you think he's had like a magic touch with these 3-year-old fillies?
I think he's done so fantastically well because he really understands them. I think that's the key to them. It's, you know that you can't tell a filly, you have to ask them. And I think that's where he's had a touch, and especially as he still rides his own horses, that he has a good feel for them, and he's such a great horseman. Right. I think it's paid off, and it's been showing over the years about what a fantastic trainer he is.
Well, I concur with that assessment. And as far as this is your first time riding in a big race like the Kentucky Oaks, have you had a chance yet to scout the competition, like watch videos, look at past performances, or even see them out here on the track training in the morning?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of the past performances and been going, when closer to the race day, I'll be going back over their previous races to look for tactics and how the race is probably going to set up and have an idea of how the race will run before we get a chance to ride it. But you get to see them in the morning when they come out here, and it's great to be here this morning so I can watch them all train before coming out on the track myself on the next worker. And of course, I've seen Jay walk over at Keeneland, and I saw Positive Spirit yesterday morning. They're all looking really well, and it's nice to see the competition, and it's great that we have a show like this so I can keep up to date with everything.
Well, it's been great having Sophie Doyle join us here on the Morning Workouts show. Sophie, best of luck to you and continued success in the future.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Back to you, Joe.
2015, Lovely Maria. 2012, Believe You Can with female jockey Rosie Napravnik. And 2008, Proud Spell. Yes, Larry Jones has been very prominent in the Kentucky Oaks, Scott.
Yeah, no stranger to getting this done. 2008, 2012, 2015. Maybe he's due for another one. It seems like a pattern, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And I love the loyalty that Larry Jones is showing to Sophie Doyle. you get a good horse like that, whether it's the Kentucky Derby or the Kentucky Oaks, and the phone is ringing, all the agents, big name riders, they would love to have him out like Street Band, Larry Jones sticking with Sophie. I give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, he always seems to be a guy that's been loyal to the jockeys beforehand, doesn't like to change it. But what I really noticed, Sophie Doyle, great ride in the Fairgrounds Oaks, saved ground the whole way, angled out when the time was right, and finished. I have my concerns with Street Band, whether she can get the same trip in the Oaks. Will probably be a little further off the pace, and she is a little bit tough to relax, as Sophie mentioned, but definitely a horse that seems to be on the improve, Joe.
Just moments away from the Derby and Oaks horses stepping out on the racetrack for morning training. War of Will arrived yesterday. Let's take a look at the tentative arrival schedule for the horses in the Kentucky Derby. And I've been told by Kevin Kirstein that it looks like the Baffert horses, Roadster and Game Winner, may arrive today. It says 25th or 27th. We're looking at possibly an early arrival from Roadster and Game Winner. War of Will arrived yesterday. Code of Honor is supposed to arrive from Keeneland tomorrow, or today actually, so looking very forward to having another new horse on the track. And then Bellafina, the likely Oaks favorite, Master Fencer, he's in Chicago. It's really nice to see these horses arriving, trickling in, getting a chance to see them for the track on the track for the first time.
Yeah, definitely. Horses like War of Will, Roadster, Game Winner, really looking forward to seeing them and how they take to the surroundings. Joe, with the Baffert horses coming in early, never a bad thing to get our eyes on them a little bit longer. Improbable's already been here for a little while.
Right. We have a couple of minutes to take a social media question or two before the horses step out. And again, Scott, no workers today. We're going to see a lot of horses galloping, though. A lot of the horses that worked on Monday are going to be back on the racetrack today after having a walk day on Tuesday. Social media question. Let's take one from Tricia on Facebook. She wants to know who's riding Roadster and why Mike Smith isn't, Scott.
Yeah, Roadster will be ridden by Florent Giroux. Mike Smith had the option, rode Omaha Beach and Roadster in the final prep. It sounded like it was a very tough decision for Mike, but he opted to ride Omaha Beach. You can speculate why. It was a little bit surprising to some that he decided not to ride the Baffert horse after winning the Triple Crown last year, but perhaps it was maybe the running style. We talked about wanting to be a little bit closer to the pace in the Derby of late. Maybe he saw that. Maybe he just thinks Omaha Beach is a more talented horse. Remains to be seen, but Flo Giroux will take over on Roadster.
And Bob Baffert handled it great. He said Mike's got to pick who Mike wants to ride. Doesn't want Mike thinking about a different horse if he's riding his horse. So they have a long relationship, but Fox Hill Farm also has a great relationship with Mike Smith as well, with Songbird from a few years ago. So Mike's ridden a lot of good horses over the years, a lot of loyalty to and from Mike Smith. Okay, Kentucky Derby's coming up. Not everybody can be here at Churchill Downs live and in person. If you've never been here, it's on your bucket list. You need to make it a point at some point in your life. But if you can't be here, you're throwing a party, why not have the official souvenir program? Kentucky Derby party.com. That's where you can order them in advance. Lots of great stuff to be found there. Memorabilia collectors, horse players, party hosts, fans. The Kentucky Derby program now available. KentuckyDerbyParty.com to place your order. The horses are stepping out onto the racetrack for the Kentucky Derby and Oaks exclusive training period, and we'll be back with all of that action right after this on the Kentucky Derby Work Show presented by TwinSpires.com.
With TwinSpires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby, place legal wagers, and watch live horse racing on any device. New players download now to start your $100 sign-up bonus. Sign up, play, and win today.
Every time I come to the track, safety is my #1 concern. Ahead of every big race, I always take great care to prepare myself and my horse for a safe trip around the track. So know your limits, and if you do decide to drink, make sure you designate a driver to get you home safely. Never miss a moment.
With TwinSpires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby, place legal wagers, and watch live horse racing on any device. New players download now to start your $100 sign-up bonus. Sign up, play, and win today.
Kentucky Derby morning workout shows. The horses in the yellow saddle towel are Kentucky Derby horses. The horses donning the pink saddle towel are Kentucky Oaks horses. And this is our first look, at least locally, at least this year, at War of Will, the winner of the Lecomte Stakes, winner of the Risen Star, looking very good on the racetrack. And this is a horse I fell in love with. He almost took a huge chunk out of my arm a couple of different times when I went to visit him back at the Cassie barn. But very impressive in the Lecomte, very impressive in the Risen Star, even money in the Louisiana Derby, but just strides out of the gate. Scott had a little bit of a hind end issue, pulled a muscle, and he was a big question mark whether or not he'd be able to make the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, War of Will, Joe, one of the horses I'm most looking forward to get an eye on over the next several days, and nice to see him here. Like you mentioned, really had a lot of things going for him heading into that Louisiana Derby, probably one of the favorites at the time. The trouble was much too much to overcome at 4-5 for him. Never was a factor in that race. But what more importantly was the way he came out of the race. There were a lot of questions whether he'd even be here. Good to see him looking good on the track right now.
Yeah, the name is War of Will. He's by Warfront, one of two horses sired by Warfront. And War of Will, the nickname around the barn, is Wow. And he certainly did wow us in the Lecomte and the Risen Star. And Mark Casse, another trainer who has not won the Kentucky Derby yet. He is 0 for 6. 2017 Classic Empire might have been the best horse in the race, Scott, but had a very difficult beginning to the race.
Yeah, we spoke of trouble with War of Will, Joe. Classic Empire coming out of the gate really got cost all chance and came with a late run. I would say he was best that day, especially given the bias. You talk about War of Will, though. Did run well in his one start over this surface. It was a sloppy going that day, but it was his first third try. Maybe he likes it here. Maybe he just liked the slop, but certainly a horse to keep an eye on.
If you remember that, your Classic Empire had all kinds of trouble in his run up to the Kentucky Derby as well. Didn't want to train, this and that, and he ran great in the Kentucky Derby. So David Carroll, the assistant trainer, Mark Casse, the trainer, they can get this horse right for the Run for the Roses. But Derby winners who did not run 1, 2, 3 in their final 9 furlong prep, Mind That Bird 2009 was 4th. Giacomo 2005 was 4th. Charismatic 1999 was 4th. Sea Hero, Kawhi King, other horses on that list. But you want to at least hit the board, if not win, going into the Kentucky Derby. War of Will does not fit that category.
No, and the horses that you mentioned are some of the biggest bombs in recent memory.
Right,
Giacomo,
good point.
Mind That Bird. Yep. So when they do win and you hit them, at least you get paid. But recently, you want to have that good form coming into the race.
Oh, War of Will, you look so kind on the racetrack. Get a chance to go visit him back at the barn. You definitely got to watch your back, though. He is a feisty colt for sure, and he is a mountain of a man, a big, tall, handsome, good-looking horse, and he is certainly bred to run the 1.25 mile distance. A lot of turf pedigree, but he's definitely proven himself on the main track. Pluska Parfait is the next horse we're going to take a look at. Scott, this horse worked on Sunday. There was not a recorded time because it was foggy. None of the horses that trained that day got a recorded time, but he did have a workout, and this is a horse coming in from Dubai where he won the UAE Derby, and the addition of blinkers really seems to have helped him.
Yeah, he was ran a very professional race overseas, Joe, in the UAE Derby, which has not been a springboard to much success here, but he is a horse that went over from the States, which is definitely different. And you mentioned the blinkers. Very professionally weaved his way through horses, was full of run late, got the best of Gray Magician, kind of pulled away late. A horse that has 2 in-the-money finishes here at Churchill, so he's probably happy to be back home.
We mentioned War of Will, and this horse was no match for War of Will at the fairgrounds in the Lecomte and the Risen Star. The connections do have Middle Eastern ties, so they wound up bringing him to the UAE Derby. He put the blinkers on. Great ride by Jose Ortiz, and they got the job done. We'll see if he can come back from Dubai, which is never an easy thing, and run well on the first Saturday in May. Here's another horse with some questions, different kinds of questions, though, Scott. Long Range Toddy, very consistent performer throughout his career, ran a monster race in the Rebel, but last time out in the Arkansas Derby did not run well. Do we give him a mulligan because of the slop or what?
You could say that. I don't think he took to the slot, but he also got a perfect trip two back in the Rebel. It was a great ride by veteran rider John Cord, who obviously knows how to ride Churchill well. I think long range Toddy's best chance is to sit back, pass a lot of horses, kind of what we were talking about with Country House. I'm not sure if this horse is good enough, but Steve Asmussen shooting for his first Derby win with him.
0 for 19, 2 seconds, 2/3, second a couple of years ago. With a long shot and looking at Lee. And John Court, you mentioned him. He has not been confirmed as the rider of Long Range Toddy as far as I know. But if he were to ride Long Range Toddy, Scott, he would be the oldest jockey to ever compete in the Kentucky Derby at the age of 58. Bobby Beard was 57 when he rode in the Derby, and the legendary Bill Shoemaker 54 when he won aboard Ferdinand.
Yeah, great story it would be if John Court could get the opportunity. He's ridden the horse in his last two tries at Oaklawn Park. We'll see what happens, though, Joe.
Now, War of Will, he came back off of that injury. They had to take their time. They had to make sure that everything was good to go with him. He bounced back quickly, has had a couple of workouts since, most recently at Keeneland, looked good. Nice little gallop here at Churchill Downs. He broke his maiden here, Scott, last fall. It was an off-the-turf race. I actually believe it may have been the last race of the meet, or it was the race that took down the single six.
Yeah, it was the second to the last day. There was going to be the big pool
right.
the next day, and War of Will was made the favorite, and there might have been one other horse, and he won that race so easily. You people were walking away after hoping kind of for that carryover and didn't get it.
Yeah, and again, we mentioned the fact that he has turf pedigree. But Warfront has two horses in this year's Derby. The other one, Omaha Beach. So if you bet the sire wager, 41-1 on Warfront, and you've got two pretty good shots.
Yeah, certainly the distance is there for both of these horses, and they've proven they can take to multiple surfaces, and they've even been better on the dirt, which is surprising.
All right, we're going to get a nice look of Pluska Parfait galloping in and out of the turn here. Again, a lot to ask from this horse. I mean, shipping him to Dubai, Brendan Walsh said, and this will be Brendan's first Kentucky Derby starter, that, we're just going to try something. The Connections had a local affiliation to the Middle East, and it made a lot of sense to run him in the UAE Derby, put the blinkers on him, and I think the Connections were even surprised by how well he ran. But coming back from Dubai, Scott, not an easy thing. Can he maintain that form? That's the big question.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, Joe, but you have to remember that was a $2.5 million race over there. You wonder, maybe they weren't ultra confident, but it was definitely a race he was probably cranked for. A lot of these horses come in with the goal being the Kentucky Derby. You have to wonder if he'll be able to move forward again, which he'll need to do to contend.
He does have the fact that he ran well at Churchill Downs on his resume. Never a bad thing. It's good to know that you can handle this racetrack. He began his career here. He was a good second in the Kentucky Jockey Club. He just missed by a scant nose. And getting a nice gallop here. And, when you look at a horse like this, and yes, we love horse racing. Yes, we're big fans. We're both looking to cash tickets on the Kentucky Derby. Is this a horse you utilize at all if you're playing trifectas and supers?
For me, I think he's going to need to take that step forward, and not sure I can expect it. But you did mention that Kentucky Jockey Gold Cup, where our colleague James Scully had him at almost 15-1. I believe Darren Rogers as well. A very tough beat. Ran too good to lose that day.
Yeah, he did. And the horse he lost to was Signalman, and a perfect segue to him with a gallop. And unlike Pluska Parfait, Signalman not in the Derby field as of this moment. Kenny McPeak electing to await the Bluegrass Stakes after running him in Florida a little bit earlier in the year where he didn't earn any points. Signalman ran a big race in the Bluegrass, got caught right on the wire by Win for second, which cost him his place in the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, there's things to like about Signalman. Another horse that will definitely have to move forward, but has run in the top three in all three of his starts here at Churchill. Was a little closer to the pace in the Bluegrass than he had been in the past. There was a bias that day. I'm kind of wondering if Brian Hernandez Jr. had a feel for the bias and tried to put him into a spot that he maybe wasn't as comfortable with.
Good point.
If he gets in, maybe he's a horse that can pick up the pieces. We'll need to move forward a lot, though, to win this thing.
By the $5,000 Stallion General Quarters, it cost $32,000 at auction, did General Quarters, showing you that a Kentucky Derby horse can come from anywhere. Here's Improbable with his neck bowed in his gallop for Bob Baffert. 48 seconds flat for his Breeze the other morning, coming back just 9 days off of his Arkansas Derby runner-up performance. and he took the blinkers off for the workout. He's going to have no blinkers for the Kentucky Derby after that. I don't want to say failed experiment because the horse ran second, but attitude-wise, I think this horse is better off without the hood.
Yeah, things did not go as planned, even though he did get out of the gate well, acted up. Backford almost said he wasn't going to be surprised if he even got scratched. He was acting up so poorly. Third start off the layoff, a win over the track. Joe, a horse I've been high on. A little bit of questions in terms of the 1.25 miles, but if he's into the race early, I think he's got as good a shot as anyone on the first Saturday of May.
Now, the horse that he lost to in the Arkansas Derby is Omaha Beach. He is galloping right now for Dick Mandela. He's looked very good here since arriving at Churchill Downs. And again, we talked about War of Will with that Warfront pedigree. You think Warfront, you think turf. He began his career on turf. We talked about it earlier, but he obviously is a high-quality dirt horse because he's won 2 graded stakes in a row, and now he might be the favorite for the biggest race for 3-year-olds of the year.
Yeah, biggest race of the year probably. But yeah, Omaha Beach is certainly taken to the turf well. Mandela's horses always look good, so hard to kind of make that as a differentiation. They just seem to always look good. When I was out in California, always noticed his horses looking real strong. The question with Omaha Beach is the value going to be there, and where is he going to be? Is he going to be right on the lead? Is he going to be sitting second or third? But certainly has done nothing wrong in the mornings thus far to take away from his chances.
Yeah, a half to Take Charge Brandy, who did win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. The dam is a half to Take Charge Indy, Will Take Charge. The Grand Dam is Take Charge Lady. So lots to like about Omaha Beach, who is doing very, very well since arriving at Churchill, as is the horse on your screen, Tacitus. Talk about a horse that's well-bred.
Yes, son of Tappet, out of Close Hatches, a very productive
$3 million, yeah.
Yep, to say the least. The Juddmonte Farms homebred. But Tacitus has moved forward in each of his last couple starts. Was pretty solid in his first 2 starts, but just that in New York as a 2-year-old. Bill Mott, though, showed a ton of confidence, Joe, I thought, by entering him in the Tampa Bay Derby off the bench, first start versus winners, and he rewarded him almost 9-1 that day. Moved forward again in the Wood Memorial, but I do think Tacitus is going to have to be sitting closer than he may be to be at his best, but definitely a horse that seems to continue to be improving and can run all day.
Yeah, he just kind of floats over the ground, and this is one of those horses, along with Improbable, and did a seminar last night and kind of talked about it, where I can go either way. Like, I like him, but I see reasons to maybe not like him as far as being a win candidate. So we'll have to wait and see how things play out the rest of the week. And post positions and visualizing the expected pace, Tacitus certainly needs honest fractions to run at. Liora, upset winner at Churchill Downs in her stakes debut. She won at 27-1, the Goldenrod, and she's on the racetrack now. We talked about Larry Jones being a ladies' man, so is trainer Wayne Catalano. He's had a lot of success with fillies and mares over the years.
Yeah, you got to love the cat, man. And this horse has found an affinity for this course, Joe. 2 for 2 at Churchill. Another horse that will be on or near the lead in the race that looks like packed with speed. I wonder if Liora's 1 1/8 is going to be a little bit too much for her. Obviously a horse that's been consistent and hard knocking, maybe asking a lot for her to win the race. Maybe she can get a piece, though.
Yeah, I mean, she was no match for Serengeti Empress in the Rachel Alexandra. Then in the Fairgrounds Oaks, and we saw that video earlier, you know, Street Band just had her measured as Liora was getting a little bit tired in the stretch, and Street Band kind of blew right by her. So either several of these horses are going to have to regress and she's going to have to improve, or maybe a little bit of an outsider looking in, I think.
Yeah, I think more of the latter, Joe, especially given the pace scenario. I think if the pace was a softer one, maybe she would have a better chance. But chasing the likes of some of those top horses, including Serengeti Empress, is going to be a tough task.
Now, if you haven't seen Country House's victory before he entered stakes competition at Gulfstream, go back and watch it. He broke about 15 lengths slow at the start, Scott. Look, absolutely hopelessly beaten and came back and won that race. Obviously not the caliber of competition he's faced since then, but it was kind of a fun race to watch. Established himself with a runner-up performance in the Risen Star, and then like we mentioned earlier, just kind of ran along late to be third in the Arkansas Derby, but he's done some nice track work since arriving at Churchill.
Very good looking horse, seems to be thriving right now. Joe, with making his 5th start of the year. You mentioned that race he won at 3-5 at Gulfstream. Pace wasn't even fast that day.
Right.
It was much the best. The problem is he's going to need to get out of the gate better than he has. He's facing obviously a lot better than he had to overcome that day. If he can figure out his gate issues, he certainly has some things to like, the ability to get the distance and the ability to finish, which are obviously keys in the Kentucky Derby. But when you're coming from 20th or 19th, what might not be that hot of a pace, it might be a tough task.
So there's a look at Country House. Again, earlier we saw Tacitus, 2 horses trained by Bill Mott, which brings us to some social media questions as the Oaks and Derby horses are now exiting the track. Man, that 15 minutes goes by awfully fast. We got to see quite a few horses here today. So one of the questions on social media has to do with Bill Mott, and the question comes from Jen on Facebook. How many horses has Bill Mott had in the Kentucky Derby? 0 for 8. His best finish, Hofburg, last year. Hofburg was a hype horse coming into the Kentucky Derby, but Bill Mott, he's won the Belmont with Drosselmeyer. He's had Cigar. He's had so many great horses over the years. And the Kentucky Derby, even Bob Baffert will tell you, he's won 5 of them. It's the hardest race to win.
Yeah, it's a very difficult race to win. So many great trainers and owners are shooting for it. And you have to remember guys like Bill Mott and Richard Mandela, this isn't necessarily their ultimate goal like some of the other trainers. They bring their horses along slowly. They let their horses talk to them. So, yes, Bill Mott had a couple of contenders this year, but he doesn't go all in to win these races. His owners don't expect that from him. When he does have a contender like this, you got to take him seriously, though, because you know that fact.
Right. I mean, there's no... as far as horsemanship goes, Bill Mott is definitely on the top of the list. And again, want to take a look at some of the horses that he's had in the Kentucky Derby in his career to kind of just give you a little bit of a gauge. Bill Mott in the Derby, like I said, best finish was 7th with Hofburg. This is going to actually be the 3rd time that Mott has started 2 horses in the Derby. He had Favorite Trick and Rock and Roll, and then he had Court Vision and Z Humor. And obviously, Favorite Trick was a 2-year-old champion. He was undefeated during his 2-year-old year. He was actually Horse of the Year. But some of the other horses that Bill Mott has had in the Derby, it's not like he's getting beaten with favorites in the race.
No, these are horses that you don't want to call also rants, but horses that you are hoping for the best,
right?
But are not taking a lot of money on the tote board. We've seen upsets before, not in the recent years, but we've seen them before. You're always hopeful that can be you. But, yeah, these horses are not underachieving on the first Saturday of May.
Now, Tacitus, what are you thinking, 10-1?
I think he's an 8 to 10. I think he's going to be one of the top 3 or 4 choices. He's training well. He's coming into the race well. I think people want Bill Mott to win. You have that camp. I think the pedigree folks, he's one of those top horses. You don't have to worry about the distance. But as we talked about, if the favorite's 5 or 6 to 1, what could Tacitus be? I would say 9 or 10 to 1.
The first time we got a chance to see War of Will was today. We got a good look at him on the screen and over here behind us. I was impressed with what I saw. Omaha Beach making another nice appearance. No negatives so far. I'm interested to see and hear what James Scully has to say. James?
Yeah, Joe. War of Will, he's coming off of a bad effort in the Louisiana Derby. Was anxious to see him. He arrived here at Churchill yesterday from Keeneland, and I definitely thought he looked great out there. He was a athletic-looking individual and went out there for a spirited gallop and then looked like he had a little pep to his step coming off the racetrack.
As you can see, War of Will galloping there. And then Country House, we saw Tacitus. But I know Omaha Beach, at least to me, James, has been a horse that I've been impressed with. Your thoughts on him?
First time seeing Omaha Beach in person, and Joe, and he looked awesome, I thought, out there. Very, very powerful looking individual. Definitely feeling good out there on the track, but relaxed for the exercise rider. So excited to see him work. I think he's expected to go on Friday morning.
Definitely looking forward to Omaha Beach putting in a little bit more serious exercise. He's looked great in his gallops. And Scott, a lot of the heavy lifting was done this past weekend. We saw, by my standards, 6 furlongs. We've seen some 5 furlong workouts. We saw Improbable with that fast half mile. The heavy lifting has been done. The vast majority of these horses are going to have another work this weekend, including Omaha Beach. But they're going to be half-mile breezes. They're going to be easy works. They're going to set them up for what should be a peak performance in the Kentucky Derby or Oaks, depending on which race they're going in.
Yeah, that penultimate work is always a little bit more of a pressing work, Joe, or almost always, I should say, than that final work, which is just for maintenance, make sure the horse is ready, give him a little bit of exercise, so the peaking, like you said, on the first Saturday of May.
Yeah, and Omaha Beach has looked great in his gallops, and we haven't really seen any negatives whatsoever. Improbable's look good, too. I thought Improbable was a horse that worked a little fast the other day, and especially, coming off the Arkansas Derby just 9 days before, he goes 48 seconds, look good doing it. Does that tell you, Scott, that maybe they're going to try to show a little bit of speed with Improbable when he goes so fast in that work?
Yeah, James and I were actually discussing this off camera yesterday, and I thought James made a good point. The fact that he pushed him out of the gate early, and kind of asked a lot of him early and not as much late shows that they are going to probably do that. Now, you would think taking the blinkers off might not. And Rod Ortiz Jr. is also a jockey that I don't think of as a speed jock, but I think Baffert knows what it takes to win this race. He probably sees there's not a lot of speed in the race and is going to want to get his horses, especially Improbable, into the race early.
Now, every jockey, Scott, wants to be on the favorite for the Kentucky Derby. There's so much, for lack of a better word, jockeying around that happens in the months leading up. A lot of these riders, and Mike Smith's a perfect example. He rode Omaha Beach. He rode Roadster. He had to make a choice. Jockeys have to make choices. Their agents have to make choices. Trainers have to decide who they want to ride. Jose Ortiz is another example, as we have a question on social media here about who's riding Tacitus. Jose had some choices as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Jose's pretty loyal to Bill Mott, but also rides for some other barns, of course. But the way Tacitus is coming into the race, he's ridden him every time, all 4 starts. It would be hard for me to think Jose wasn't going to take off this horse for just about anybody in the field.
Right, and Jose Ortiz, a rider that has not won the Kentucky Derby yet, just 0-4, younger rider, Eclipse Award winner. Last year, his brother Irad was the Eclipse Award winner, I should say, in 2018, Jose in 2017. But when you talk about the Ortiz brothers, doesn't really get any better. These guys are really good, and I would guess multiple Kentucky Derbies likely in their future.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Joe, it's just a matter of time till one of the Ortiz brothers is in the winner's circle. This year could be that time with Improbable or Tacitus. They'll have their chances, but if not this year, it's on the horizon.
I have a question here from Catherine on Facebook. How is the horse with the cracked hoof? But she's talking about Omaha Beach, and it was one of those situations where a lot of reporters were back at the Mandela barn the other day, noticed that Omaha Beach was having some work done. He actually flew in his farrier from California, and this is a horse that had a quarter crack way back when the horse was still a maiden. He's won 2 greatest stake races since, and it's just something that you have to monitor, but certainly not a concern based on the way the horse is running.
Yeah, it's not as if this quarter crack just appeared, and a quarter crack not as big as a lot of other issues that horses could have, but the fact that the horse has performed like he has with the quarter crack, I think obviously this time of year, especially on a horse that's expected to be the favorite, this makes the news. I don't think it's much news though, Joe.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with that. Jose on Facebook is asking, why no John Velasquez in this year's Derby? Well, Jose, you'll be happy to know that John Velasquez is riding in the Kentucky Derby aboard Code of Honor.
Yeah, and it's interesting that he did choose Code of Honor. Todd Pletcher, a guy he's been loyal to over the years with 2 horses, one of them Spin-Off, another one Cutting Humor. He had the option to ride both of those horses, you would think, but he opted for Code of Honor. He's given that horse a couple really good rides, including in the Fountain of Youth. He gave it, of course, an incredible ride. So you have to think Johnny V gives Code of Honor a big shot in this race.
Yeah, Code of Honor is supposed to arrive at Churchill Downs today. The Baffert horses, the other 2 that we haven't seen yet, Roadster and Game Winner, I believe they're supposed to arrive tomorrow. Love when these horses are trickling in. We get our first opportunity to see them. Really, really good day today with War of Will on the racetrack for the first time. Interested to see what James Scully has to say about what he liked most about the morning action here today. James?
Joe, I mean, it was just great being back here on the backstretch. I think about half the field, about approximately 10 Kentucky Derby horses were on the track today. And like you referenced, Bob Baffert's expected to ship Roadster and Game Winner, a pair of top contenders, in this afternoon. So expect them to be out on the track tomorrow. Really looking forward to seeing those two arrive from California.
Yeah, some arrivals obviously coming up. And as far as I'm concerned, what I liked most were James's interviews with Tom Amos and Sophie Doyle. Both very candid, great information, both great speakers, and both looking forward to their respective runs in the Kentucky Oaks. But great interviews from James, Tom Amos, and Sophie Doyle.
Yeah, absolutely. They both gave us some information that hopefully we can use. Sophie did a great job of explaining things. Tom Amos, always good on camera. We've seen him before, but found what he said about Serengeti Empress very educational. Especially, I kind of had the feel that he mentioned that maybe they'd be taking Serengeti Empress a little bit off the pace, knowing pace, kind of the way the work went. It was very interesting to know that that's not the plan at all, Joe.
And real quickly, what did you take from today? What was your impressions? What did you like most?
Yeah, I mean, just the first day being out here, it's just great to see all the contenders coming out, even though they're not working, seeing them gallop, seeing Improbable, seeing Tacitus, just seeing some of the major contenders, Omaha Beach, here live was definitely the highlight for me.
Yeah, for me, I'd say War of Will. First opportunity to see him. I spent all winter with this horse at the fairgrounds. I'm going to go visit him at the barn a little bit later. I'll be wearing full body armor when I go back there. But yeah, definitely looking forward to watching War of Will train in the course of the next week or so. All right, again, if you can't make it here to Churchill Downs, throw a party. There's a lot of different ways you can enjoy the Kentucky Derby. And if you're going to do just that, KentuckyDerbyParty.com is a great place. There's a lot of different things that you can learn from that website, a lot of different things you can order, including the official Kentucky Derby 145 souvenir program. Great to distribute to your guests, fans, party hosts, horse players, memorabilia collectors. Now we make it easy for you to get the Kentucky Derby program. Order online at KentuckyDerbyParty.com. Work show here for a Wednesday. Enjoy the remainder of your day. We'll be back again tomorrow.